I want to switch things up. I want to talk some Marvel and MCU. We got some big news this week at San Diego Comic-Con. I do also want to get your Deadpool and Wolverine thoughts, and because we didn't get a chance to the other day, but we will talk with spoilers. So if anyone hasn't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, don't worry. We'll kind of sign before we get to that. Before that, let's discuss some of the revelations from the weekend. Particularly around, we'll focus mainly on Marvel, but also we covered the boys on here, and I've had many discussions, and there was huge news coming out of that as well. They announced that Eric Kripke announced that a prequel series, Vought Rising, covering the early years of the Vought Empire, starring Soldier Boy and Stormfront coming back, would be unveiled soon. But the main news was based around the MCU announcing two Avengers movies, helmed by the Russo brothers, Secret Wars and Doomsday, with Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the MCU to play Doctor Doom. I don't mean to undersell that, but if you listen to this show, you've definitely heard that news. I'm not breaking it to you. What are your thoughts on all this and some of the revelations? What do you look forward to? How do you feel? Give me the lay of the
Um,
land. I know we've had a discussion as well. Like the group chat was hopping all weekend, but again,
hmm.
we'll redo that because like again, and kind of redo some of our thoughts because obviously anyone listening or watching wouldn't have been privy to that.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that they've dropped Kang. I would have liked a recast for Kang.
Mm.
Because we've done so much groundwork here, and it just seems to, like, I know they can go back to it, but it just seems to be for nothing at the moment. I mean, they cast freaking Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross. Why can't you just recast Kang
Mm.
and continue this story? Um, and yeah, I don't know. The lads in the chat seem a lot more optimistic about Doom than me. I would have loved an origin story for Doom. I feel like this Robert Downey Jr. Variation of him is, it's just going to be, there's no build up. It's just, he's just going to be there as Doctor Doom. Maybe it'll be class. I am trying just to reserve judgment till we see like a trailer, we see what the voice is like, we see what he's like, and maybe we're a bit more clear on the story. But it's exciting, but it smells of desperation.
Yeah, there is a little to it, and I'm hearing a lot of discussion as well as you know Doomsday, or sorry, Secret Wars is due to come out 2027. I'm going to talk about the Secret Wars comics, but not, well, I'm going to give away the ending. No, I'm not really. I'm not going to get too specific, but Secret Wars, the end of that sparked a total reboot of Marvel
Yeah,
storylines. Um, and there's a lot of talk that by 2027, Kevin Feige will be in his 20th year, kind of fronting the MCU. And is this just a way of him kind of going, look, this worked in the past. I'm going to go out the way I came in. And is this him about to reboot the series and pass it on to whoever is kind of next to the line in Marvel Studios? And maybe he just kind of takes a step up, you know what I mean? And starts like overseeing rather than being the guy who pulls the strings of it all. And maybe we get a new vision in there. Um, that would track to me because it's a very safe pick. It feels like in the wake of the Kang Dynasty storyline not working out, and I don't blame them for recasting and going another direction. It felt weird watching John Majors in season two. It would have felt of Loki. It would have felt. I know they were never going back to him, especially after he was convicted. But
mm.
I wouldn't. I would have gotten used to a recast, and there's a lot of people out there as well, like I was a big kind of advocate for John Boyega, who was absolutely
Yeah,
amazing and gave like a very Jonathan Majors kind of nuanced um type of performance in They Clone Tyrone. And I would have hated that casting before I saw They Clone Tyrone. Really fun Netflix movie if anyone's looking for something good to watch. But I'm like, oh my God, I could totally see him as Kang. He's brilliant. He's got it all. So there are people out there that they easily could have recast as. And again, you don't have to make someone physically similar to John Majors. It can be anyone. Like we're in the
yeah,
multiverse. Um, I feel like Marvel sat around after that and they're like, right, we need a new plan. And someone's like, well, have you thought of like, I'm just gonna throw this out there. pizzas, but they're square. And they're like, we did that. We tried it, didn't work, didn't, and we can't build a multi-million dollar franchise, multi-billion dollar franchise around it. We have tried it and it didn't work. And then they're like, what about, right? Two Avengers movies directed by the Russos, but they're connected. And it's like, that's literally what the last Avengers movie was. And then it's like, yeah, but Robert Downey Jr. is in them. And I'm like, that's literally what the last Avengers movie was. And they're like, yes, but they were the biggest movies of all time. And they're like, sold. And that's that. I feel like that
Yeah.
was
Even down to the same writers, I think, as well, that they got
yeah,
for these new ones too.
it is just them kind of a redux. And there was a look again. I'll check in with him next time he's on the show. For example, Dan Lynham, who'd often join us for chats around Marvel and the likes, and was on our Deadpool and Wolverine kind of review as well. Which obviously was released before that news broke. He's quite excited about this and kind of thinking of possibilities and storylines and stuff like that. And in the conversation we had, I kind of said to him, "Look, this can work. Like the people they're getting involved are great at what they do." Like the Russo brothers, I have no beef with them. They made two of my favorite movies, like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. Maybe
And
like
Winter Soldier as well. Fucking
Winter
brilliant
Soldier,
too.
great. Yeah, like so, but those two Avengers movies that they made in particular could be in my top 10 all time. You know what I mean? Like I don't put together or keep or maintain that too much, but it's in terms of rewatch movies, it's probably there. Robert Downey Jr., amazing actor, like, and has only gone to bolster his acting chops since he left the MCU. And there's also talk that this could be a Tony Stark variant, and so we get a bit of Stark, but what if Stark was evil and stuff like that as well? And you know, he just became Doctor Doom, and so on and so forth. And maybe there's some comic basis for kind of that speculation as well. I don't know. I'm not. I don't have Dan's kind of level of mastery in that regard. So, could this be good? Yes. But what it reminds me of, to kind of compare it to something in wrestling that a lot of us would be familiar with, would be it's like when WWE would have a big main event fall through and they just ring up John Cena and Cena will come back. And then it's like, now I'm in the main event against the biggest heel. And then it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And for weeks, WWE would be like, this is always the plan. This is the biggest match ever. This is the match that everyone wanted, not the one that we clearly had planned beforehand before that guy got injured. And we're like, Cena's good, so he could make it work. But we also know that's not the plan. And that wasn't the plan. And it feels like that. And that's not to say that this won't be amazing or the right creative people can pull this together and make it work. They absolutely can. We'll be watching. We'll probably analyze on this podcast every single step of the way. And we may turn around and say it's the best thing ever at the end. I'm not eliminating that from being, but it feels disappointing right here and now when I step back from how cool the announcement was and how surprising the announcement was and how fun it was to see Robert Downey Jr. be part of Marvel and the initial shock and elation that came with just watching the clip. When you step back for me, it feels disappointing because I wanted to feel like this week, especially with Deadpool and Wolverine, I wanted to feel like Marvel is fucking back to the strengths it was, okay? And that's where, and people will say, look, you're spoiled. Like, they're never going to get back to phase 3. That was just a special time in movie history. But I don't even just mean that golden period of phase 3, where it's Ragnarok, Wakanda Forever, Civil War, 2 Avengers movies, you know, we've got Spider-Man. I'm not even talking about that golden run. Even in phase 2, it felt like, even in stuff that didn't work, like The Dark World or Age of Ultron, it felt like we were on a story where there was a roadmap and they're leading us towards something, you know? Thanos should show up like at the end of Guardians. You're like, oh shit, what's Thanos doing there? And we didn't know, but they knew. And like, again, comic book readers could speculate on that, and they were probably writing a lot of it, but it was still fucking amazing. And it felt like we were all watching a masterpiece being creative, and it just doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels manufactured, right down to Deadpool and Wolverine, which again, it's entertaining, but like there's an element of it which feels like it's just kind of playing the hits or just kind of doing the things you expect it to do. And I want to be wowed by Marvel. I want to be owned by them in the way great creators can own it. And I think that's what's disappointing about this. It's the confirmation that, yeah, this is a money machine now. This is something which is making decisions financially based and relying on all people who've proven to be financial winners for them, rather than taking us on this rather than taking us on this journey and painting this artistic masterpiece in front of it like they did with the first three phases of the MCU. It feels like the party's very much over and kind of in need of a reboot. You're handing it over in relatively safe hands to people who could do it. But again, it just feels like for a studio that can afford any actor, any director on the
Yeah.
planet, to just go back to ones that worked before, it feels like a bit lazy, a bit of a cop out, and it just feels like a bit creatively bereft in a way I expect more than from Marvel, because I've seen them deliver on that. And maybe part of that is me having to accept maybe the party's over. Maybe this is all we're getting. You know, we had an incredibly special time, like for years, like being a Man United fan in the 90s. And it's like I had a great fucking run. And maybe I just gotta accept they're gonna be shit for a long time. Or they're gonna not even shit, but they're gonna be incredibly frustrating for a couple of decades. And maybe they'll have another golden run down the line. But this is the way it is then. And just because it was amazing once, maybe that's where we have to accept it. It's never gonna get back to that, and we just have to take it for what it is. But
But then
I'd like that. I'd like to believe.
you see, like you say that, and then you see the likes of Loki season two, especially, but like
Mm,
seasons one and two put together. You have WandaVision, like they can still fucking do it.
mm,
Um, maybe they haven't been at the best record with fucking TV shows either. But when they can get it, they can fucking hit it out of the park. But it's like you said, they're afraid to take chances again.
mm,
And Loki, I kind of felt like even just throughout the entire aesthetic of it, and the entire story as well, took a bit of a chance of being like, this is gonna get fucking weird. And people loved it.
mm.
WandaVision got fucking weird. And that's why I'm delighted. Same director is doing Fantastic Four. It gets me excited for that now that like this could be a bit more interesting of a movie because I wasn't crazy about like the 60s New York setting. But I've got like because it's the guy I can't remember his name now who did WandaVision doing Fantastic Four. I have 100% faith in that now because he fucking knocked it out of the park.
Mm. Do you know
Tonally, it
what
was
it
just
reminds
brilliant.
me of a little bit when you bring that up? Or it's like modern Eminem. Every now and then he can get it together for a song. He can't
Yeah,
do it for an album. And
yeah.
on his albums, there's a lot of stuff where like, no, you're too old. You've lost it. It's the magic just isn't still there. But there's that one song on every album where you're like, oh, it's again, nice. You know, that's what it reminds me of. It's just
100%.
one, you can get it together for one song, but just not an album. And maybe that's where Marvel's at. Maybe we just got to celebrate the wins and expect mediocrity. I don't know. But that brings me on nicely to the latest project because I don't know how you felt about this. And people are,
Mm,
again, the group chat is hopping. Like, again, some people are saying, I don't know, I don't want to. There's one person I won't name, they can out themselves when they process this if they want, but they've called this a top three movie in the MCU ever.
yeah.
I feel maybe that's generous, but like that's my own personal opinion. Maybe you feel that way. I don't know how you feel because I wanted to save it for our chat. So we can get into spoilers. If you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, that this is the end of the show for you, and we wish you well. We encourage you to come back when you watched. But if you don't want to if you don't want to hear spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine, then we won't be discussing anything else now. But Kev, feel free,
Mhm.
talk about anything you want. Deadpool, Wolverine.
So I listened to the last podcast
Mm.
during the weekend, and I was like, I wonder if the lads got different opinions to me about this film. And I was afraid a little bit when I was going to come on the podcast last week of being maybe a little pessimistic, but then hearing you guys all of your comments about the film, I was like, yep, 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 100%. Now I will preface this by saying that as well. You saw it in 2D and 3D, was it?
Yeah, I've seen both.
I saw it in 4DX.
Okay.
That was my first time ever in 4DX, and I had been drinking. It was a fucking wild ride. Like the opening scene of Baby with the NSYNC tune, and you're just getting flung about. Just completely caught me off guard. So that was an extra part of the film that was I kind of
I love
enjoyed.
that.
Um, but yeah, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head by saying Kevin Feige promised this groundbreaking, huge event in Marvel history, and it was a very self-contained movie. It was a lovely movie. I think it wrapped up the Fox stories really, really well, gave them a lovely send-off. I thought the credits are beautiful as well. But story-wise, very weak. But I had a really, really good time watching it. I laughed my whole off. It was great.
Yeah. It's tough to think about because, like, yeah, I don't want to be that person who argues against this movie because I had so much fun.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you can't come away and say it was that conversation that we had last week where it's like, oh yeah, I would watch that movie again, and then I'm like, no way, I'll just watch Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just that's better. I'll just watch that instead. Like, if I'm gonna rewatch this, I'm always gonna watch that. So yeah, it's just one of those
Because
things.
I think a lot of the shock value in this was the just the cameos and stuff as well, which are fucking brilliant as well. Loved every second of it. I think Dan mentioned last week as well the Emma Corrin is it was it Casanova?
Yeah,
Casanova?
yeah,
That scene where she had her fingers going through, I think was Wolverine's head, was some of the coolest piece of just horror filmmaking I've seen in ages
yeah.
as well. Really, really creepy. And I love that. I love my horror movies. I got my Resident Evil 2 top on as well.
Love it.
Um, but yeah, so I enjoyed it, but I agreed with all of your points. Weak story, and the cameos will kind of wear thin a little bit, I think, after a couple of rewatches, and you're like, what are you left with there at the
Yeah.
end of it, really?
Have you watched
Um,
No Way Home recently?
no,
Very interesting watch. Very interesting watch. Like when you don't have that, like watching No Way Home in the cinema was one of my favorite ever cinema
me too,
experiences
me
just
too.
because I watched that on opening day. Everyone there was bought in and screams at literal, like actual screams in the cinema. It was, but like in a very lovable and reverential way. No one's trying to ruin it. No one's trying to get over it. Everyone is just genuinely in awe and has to verbally express it. Beautiful experience.
Because we all knew it was
So
coming a little bit, but we're like, how are they gonna do
just
it?
to have it
Yeah,
confirmed, and they did it so well. Yeah. When you know that's coming, it hits very different. It doesn't hit the same. And you're like, the structure of this story is weird.
um,
It's
yeah.
and I worry that this will age like that in a way where like again a lot of the jokes will know the jokes, so again we're not going to laugh out loud as much, you know what I mean, unless you leave it like 5-10 years
I
without
think you
watching it and
have
you're
to do
like
that. Yeah, you have to leave it.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and then just be reminded, oh yeah, that was fucking funny, you know what I mean, like so yeah,
I'm
it's really interesting.
I'm annoyed that they didn't give Cassie more stuff to do.
Mm,
I think she could have been a really horrific villain considering some of her powers and what she's able to do to like the Human Torch and stuff as well. Um, and I would have liked her just to be a bit more well written and a bit more of a really fucked up threat, I think.
yeah.
Because you've got an R-rated film, you can go crazy with this shit.
Mm,
And I know it's supposed to it's comedy as well, but like you could have gone a little bit dark in places or a little bit kind of a bit more um I don't know, just have a bit more stakes, I suppose. Nothing
yeah,
felt like it was at stake in this film.
yeah,
Even as you know, I had a great conversation with one of my coworkers today who made a really good point of the bit where they're holding each other's hands and there's like the matter and antimatter,
yeah,
and all Deadpool wants to do is matter, and Wolverine doesn't want to matter because he's killed everybody.
yeah,
And those was like, oh shit, if that
that's
was done
clever.
intentionally, that's fucking great.
Yeah, that's very clever. I'll give them benefit of the doubt. I believe that they meant
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, because they said so. All I want to do is matter, and then he's grabbing on literally to mattering.
to matter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's quite clever.
And I'm like, shit,
Um,
is there stuff that I missed in this film?
maybe. I hope
Maybe?
so. I hope so. Maybe. I like. Look, I think we all want to like this movie, and I think we all had fun in it. You know what I mean? But it's just then, and it's yeah. We have to come on and talk about something, and when you actually try and talk about it, it's one of those where it's like, oh shit, there's not much to talk about beyond going, do you remember he said this? Jesus, Chris Evans. You know, just that's it. Like it
Mm,
is. It is what
I
it is.
I do think I'm a little bit of a victim to my own expectations in this film, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's not you. It's not just you. It is them. They very much. Kevin Feige came out and said this is as important for the MCU as Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like they made us feel this way. You know what I mean? They set it up. All of the jokes were very much like, oh, the MCU, oh, everything's fucked. Oh, look at me. Now we're gonna mess shit up. And then when nothing changes, and it kind of ends very similar. The ending is very similar to Quantum Mania, where it's like, nothing's changed. The world
Just
he's
trying to
in.
remember Quantum.
Remember where like he's walking down the street and they go through all of this like
Oh,
time bend thing,
yeah.
and then like he just goes home and like parties with his family, and like everyone's alive, nothing's changed, there's nothing different in the world, and Kang is now
Wasn't
with
there that
Hell.
thing though when he was walking down the street and something weird does happen? He's like, "Nah, it's pretty nothing."
He got it. He got anxiety. No, he just got anxiety in his head. He's like, "What if that's what he wanted to happen? And what if I've actually set that off?" Like he literally, all the change was
I would
Scott
have
Lang
loved
has Scott
if
Lang has
they,
anxiety.
yeah,
Like that's what's happened.
if that anxiety turned out to be true, I would have loved that. Like play into that.
Yeah,
Like, what if
yeah.
he wanted me to set that off? And if that gets like unveiled a couple of movies down the line, that would
Yeah,
have been
yeah,
fucking great. Like,
yeah. Stupid
um,
Jonathan Majors being a scumbag.
super.
And now we've got Robert Downey Jr. back, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it just didn't feel like that was when he was
Like
supposed to come back.
when you're doing this and you got the fucking Iron Man sunglasses on as well.
Yeah, do you know what pissed me off about it the most, right? And
It
this
was,
really bothered me. It was new mask, same task as his catchphrase. And he
yeah,
thinks that's clever because it rhymes. But actually, it undermines the cynicalness of all of it. Because what is the task? Make money. You know,
100%. Yeah,
there is no other task that Doctor Doom and Iron Man have in common. You are talking about your journey, and it is they gave you shitloads of money, and that is
yeah,
the task. And if there's any task, like he's already getting paid, so the task is to make Marvel money, and that tells us how cynical this project is. You know, so
mm,
that's what pisses me off because it's like you're saying it to our faces, give us all your money, and it's not in a way of like because this is so cool and the project is so cool and we're giving you a teaser. It's because I'm Robert Downey Jr. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is in an Iron Man movie or in a Marvel movie. You pay money. So now
yeah.
pay us again.
Or it's a really cynical, bitchy comment about the last few movies of the MCU where he's just like, new mask, same task. Was like, I gotta fucking fix this for all you fucks from
Yeah,
what you've
yeah,
done.
yeah, yeah. It could just be really like bitchy of all the hard work that's gone into them. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
Um,
this is not in a great place at the moment. It's gonna be up to me to fix it now.
But you know what is in a great place? House of the Dragon. And we're very
Yeah,
much excited for that ahead of the finale next week. So, Kev, it's been always a pleasure to chat with you. If you're around next week, I'd love to catch up with you or in the future anyway about what your thoughts are on everything. Always a pleasure. But here's the thing, we may not because you're a very busy man and you had some very big news on the fan club front today. So for anyone who hasn't
yes,
seen it yet, maybe share kind of what's going on. Some exciting news. Your August is
yeah.
looking jam packed.
So on August 16th, if you are at Electric Picnic, I think it's sold out. Fan Club will be playing on the Jellyfish stage. Come see us if you have a ticket to it or if you're about. We would love to see us there. Especially if you haven't seen us yet, because we fucking rule live. So
They do. They do. Fan club are fantastic live. And even if like again, I always say if you've heard their kind of stuff again, um they've got a studio sound, they've got a live sound, and both are deadly, but they're both so
mm.
different. The live sound fucks. Like it is like it's a great thing. And like again, even if it's one of those things where you're like, I've never heard fan club, but like I really like your man Kev, so I'm just gonna rock up. One of my favorite things about going to a festival is going into a tent and just finding a new favorite band. And
Mm.
if you go to a fan club gig, you will have a new favorite band. So
Thanks,
check them
man.
out. Very exciting times. Exciting times here as well. We've got SummerSlam in the Woolshed on Sunday.
Yes.
Saturday. Gotta get used to that. WWE pay-per-views happen on Saturdays now. Saturday, 3rd of August. It's going to be amazing. We've got a summer party beforehand. We've got beach games. We've got beer pong. We've got limbo. We've got a SummerSlam Kahoot table quiz. We've got food and drink till late. We've got SummerSlam live and in full in the best way that it should be in Woolshed. The best wrestling venue in the world. Like, let's just call a spade, the original best. So really looking forward to being back there for the first time for SummerSlam since 2016. Wild. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you can join us. Tables are pretty much sold out now on Eventbrite, but there will be general admission tickets available. So get on that. And again, we're going to have probably slightly less people than we had for WrestleMania, and we had room for everyone to have seats while also being amazingly packed and having an amazing atmosphere. So come along and don't waste your SummerSlam, because whatever happens on the show, and I think I'll put up a video during the week if you want to check it out of 7 reasons why SummerSlam is going to be class. I think it's going to be an amazing show, but regardless of if it is or if it isn't, we're going to give you stories that you're going to be talking about for life. Check it out. Tickets eventbrite.ie. Next week it is the final episode of this run of the Dragon Boys of Summer as we break down the finale of House of the Dragon. Very exciting times. Kev Keen, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, man.
Kev Fan Club on socials. You can follow him. We'll have tags, and check out Fan Club on Spotify and of course at Electric Picnic. I've been Jer Leggett. Follow the page 180 on my socials as well if you haven't already. But until next week, this has been the Dragon Boys of Summer. Let's raise an army of bastards.